Hey there, friend. Thank you for being here with me again on this next episode of the Journey Sessions podcast, episode 5. This episode, I'm going to be sharing with you boundaries. And of course, I'm going to be speaking from the very internal experience that we're having when we are needing to establish a boundary, when we are practicing a boundary, and when we know that we no longer need to have that boundary. This is about expanding our capacity and perhaps shifting our identity and releasing what no longer serves us and becoming more and more clear all the time on our desires. What do I want now? Who do I get to be now? How do I want to show up now? What am I available for now? What am I not available for now? So this is an ever-evolving, changing, growing experience that we are in. Let me remind you of that. And so boundaries also get to be changing. And I don't think we have to emphasize so much what our boundaries are to the outside world. Actually, I think the goal is to not have to do that. The more clear we are with ourselves, with what our boundaries are, I think the more aligned to what is for us we become, and the less that we have to actually use our boundaries, right? So this is energetic. This is intention. This is directing where we want to go and surrendering and trusting that the universe is giving us exactly what we need. So in this episode, I'm going to touch on having some space built in and having a greater capacity to be present with, notice and experience what is happening in your life. I think this is really, really important because we're a very reactive society. I think the way that we talk about boundaries and how we use them is very reactive and actually closes us off and shuts us down. There are a lot of experiences, relationships, opportunities that come to us that we wouldn't necessarily choose for ourselves, but that is being perfectly placed in our path because there's something there for us. And if we don't like something, and we decide to have a boundary, like, oh, I'm not available for this. So if you keep coming at me or if you keep showing up like this, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You might be shutting down a really rich opportunity. So how do you know if I'm just going to say it like this, misusing your boundaries? How do you know if you're not actually allowing the experiences to come through and being present with and ending the argument with reality, knowing that you're still always moving forward and being drawn into your desires? How can you stay so energetically attuned and embody that energetic attunement to the extent that you don't even have to question that what is coming at you, if it's for you or not? That's like, just sit with that for a moment. This happens through having a deep, deep connection to what you want, what you desire, and not holding it as this mental concept or it's not just pictures that you look at on your vision board or affirmations that you say that sound good. But you have a visceral, energetic, embodied, felt experience of what you want in your life. It's like tattooed on your bones. It's your heart beats to the rhythm of your desires, of the life that you are moving into, that you're co-creating, that is pulling you, right? It's not fabricated. It's actually part of your destiny. You are aligned and attuned to it. When you can sink in and exist at this level, and I'm going to repeat this all the time. This is why I'm here, right? So this is what I talk about. This is what I'm here to remind you of. When when you're living at this place, you drop the argument with reality that so many of us have created because we think we know what's best for us. We think we know how things are supposed to go. We are so hyper focused on our goals, and then we like go overboard on the planning, and we get really strategic with a linear timeline, and we got it all figured out, and we know what's happening, and we're like in control. So when things start to get a little sketchy, when plans start to go awry, when we're being actually totally dismantled and we get disoriented and we're actually being picked up by the hands of God and placed in the exact flow of life that is for us, we're not in our experience. We're freaking out. We're thinking something's gone terribly wrong. And I think for a lot of us, we rush to try to establish boundaries to create safety when it always comes from within. It's the safety that comes from within that's built on the knowing and the truth of what's actually happening, that you're actually calling in. So what I know is the clearer I am on my desires, and therefore can own my desires, the clearer I am around what I am and what I am not available for. Boundaries, in this case, are in place to protect my truest, deepest needs and desires. And like I said, when I'm clear on this, I'm living in the energy of it, I actually don't need the boundaries because I'm less likely to engage with what isn't for me. It actually doesn't come onto my radar. If someone says something or behaves in a way that is not for me, but I'm energetically attuned to what I truly desire, it's going to be like white noise in the background. It just kind of takes care of itself. When I'm hyper focused on what's happening around me, or let me reword this, when I'm more focused on what's happening around me, when I'm more focused on my current 3-dimensional reality and what I don't like or what I perceive as going wrong, and I'm looking around my life and judging any part of it, and I'm spending more time doing this than I am in my internal felt experience of my heart and soul's desires, this is where I'm going to detect, right? And we can even look at this from a neuroscience perspective. The brain is wired to detect danger and feel fear. So if I'm focusing on my outside reality, that's what I'm going to be focused. That's what I'm going to be seeing. That's where I'm going to have to enforce boundaries. The more you need to enforce a boundary, it's becoming more blatantly clear that you need to look at your relationship with your desire. That's where you put your attention. And again, it's great to have boundaries, but the goal isn't to use them. How does that land for you? Have them, be clear on them. But if you don't have to use them, awesome. We're heading in the right direction. So where we want to have boundaries and practice boundaries, the amazing place where you're like, oop, I'm noticing them using boundaries, and I also know that I'm attuned and connected to my desires. So what is this? It means that you're expanding your capacity for more, which probably requires a shift in your identity, right? You're learning how to embody and have and act from a new energy. So you're expanding your capacity for more. You're readying yourself for receiving what's coming to you, right? You know when this is happening, right? What this feels like. Think about it for a moment. When's the last time that something came along that you deeply desired and it just blew your mind? A relationship, a job, a gift, an opportunity. Like it seemed like the spiral of life you just went up a couple levels, and it just happened overnight. You're like, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that one thing happened and it changed everything. Did you know that it was coming? Did you have any inkling? Were you putting your intention and energy into this? I mean, most likely, yes. Even if you were arguing with yourself on the way to it, if you had a feeling, you were expanding, you were shifting. And it's different for every person and every experience. Sometimes we do a lot of shifting and adjusting before the change or before the thing comes. And sometimes the thing comes and we have to shift and adjust in the havingness of it. So it works in different ways. And there isn't one that's, one's not worse or better than the other. The point is that when you're in an adjustment period of expanding your capacity, which is learning to use energy and hold and have energy in a different way, which may include a shift in your identity, who you think you are, this is where you're going to need boundaries so that you don't fall into old habits, patterns, contract back into the capacity that feels the most familiar, get pulled back into an energetic frequency that feels more familiar, right? So this is why you have boundaries in place. What am I and what am I not available for? And it will change. The thing that got you here might not be what gets you to where you're going next. The beautiful gift that showed up 10 years ago that you couldn't imagine there ever being anything else that could ever be better than this might no longer apply to you today. It's okay. It's totally fine. But I think where a lot of us fail to honor this is that we don't adjust our boundaries. We don't get really honest with maybe what we can kind of surrender to and drop, because it's not even going to be in our field anymore. But there's going to be a whole new set that we're going to have to adjust for and attune to and be conscious of. And the more we practice it and the more we're with ourselves in a compassionate, loving, curious way while we're noticing and we're in the experience of it, right? We're staying conscious of what we are and aren't available for. It's powerful, beautiful work. So if boundaries are only needed when we're moving into the next iteration of ourselves, when we're shifting identities, when we're learning how to expand our capacity for more, when we're stepping into living from a higher frequency energy. So if we need boundaries in place to protect this shift, right? And it's always a shift further into our desires. Like, what is being revealed now? Why is this important now? If that's where we need boundaries, then what keeps us from establishing them? I'm going to talk about that next. So at every move up the spiral, you are going to also be brought down deeper into the root. So what this means is as you expand and move up and raise your consciousness and expand your capacity and step into higher frequency energy, you're going to be revealed to yourself the unconscious patterns, habits, beliefs, emotions, energy, structures that need to be acknowledged and moved through so that you can fully shift. So there's this powerful, I call it walking through the fire. This is walking through the fire. And this is the work, and it's beautiful. So what keeps us from establishing a boundary to protect our desires as we're learning how to have them and hold them is the subconscious behaviors that have kept us in our current reality. And I'm just going to slap a general term so that we can all be on the same page with what this is, and that's people pleasing. It's the different ways that we have learned to adapt in relationship to put other people's needs in front of our own. We are seeped in structures that say that this is a good thing to do. And I mean, I'll just speak from personal experience, and what I've noticed in others in my life is that people pleasing and boundaries began when you were a child and you couldn't actually establish a boundary. If the adult in your life was doing something that wasn't okay with you, you couldn't say, "Hey, Ma, if you keep doing that, I'm going to have to leave." It wasn't an option. And so we had to adjust and adapt and shift how we related to people to ourselves and to the people in our life, which often meant separating from self, right? So we could no longer be attuned to what our own desires were, because it actually became more important to read the energy of our caregivers and know before they did what they needed and respond to this so that we felt safe in the environment where we actually didn't want to be. So this is core wound, which means you're going to work through it at every turn of the spiral. That's just how it is. Like, I'm going through it right now as I'm evolving and up-leveling and creating in a deeper, bigger way, as I'm being more visible, as I'm speaking more honestly and truthfully, as I'm claiming more of what I want and stepping into it and experiencing it. I'm noticing deeper layers of people-pleasing tendencies that I couldn't detect before. But they weren't actually a problem before, but they're a problem now. They're a problem in that they will limit me from establishing clear boundaries to protect my desires. So I'm going to touch on a few of these, a few people-pleasing tendencies that I am aware of, that I see within myself and with others, and that I have been shown are what really needs to be, we need to be aware of now to make these shifts. So one of the ways that this shows up is in the habit of responding to other people's energy versus your own, right? So like I used earlier when I described how this happens in childhood. So how we learn how to dissociate from ourselves and become attuned to our caregiver's needs. That served you then. Guess what? It doesn't serve you now, because it's diluting your own sensitivity to yourself, which is where the deeper layers of your desire and the deeper knowing of your truth needs your sensitivity and needs your attunement to yourself. It needs you to be aware of your own self in a deeper way so that you can move up and step into your capacity now. And so if you have had a habit of responding to other people's energy and like thinking that was kind of cool and that was actually a gift, right? Or that this was something, that maybe you have an identity around being sensitive and being empathic, and that identity actually serves you, you might be invited to look at this in a way that asks you to mature that gift, so it doesn't mean that you don't have yourself first and your sensitivity to yourself first, right? Because you can have both. So that's one place to look. The next is that you've stopped exploring your deeper reason why, right? It's one thing to know your desire. It's another thing to know the reason why you have the desire and to continuously explore that why. That is going to be the ever-evolving, moving invitation that invites you into more. And once again, what's stopping you from exploring that deeper reason why is it's like the ugly patriarchal head of guilt and sacrifice, right? It's the part of you that has internalized the message that if you look more deeply at your own desires, and if you get underneath them into like these intangible reasons for it that no one else is actually going to probably understand except for you, or I should say it doesn't matter what anyone else understands except for you, other people will understand. That's important to correct there. But that there's this internalization of the message that, oh, that means I'm selfish, and then you feel guilty, and then you immediately sacrifice that exploration, right? So if you want to go bigger, you have to go deeper. And if going deeper feels like you're being selfish because you've internalized that message from the structure that we're seeped in, then that's a place to work. That it could be an edge. So you know this if you feel stuck spending the time, taking the time and space to look at why. What's here? What else is here? What's deeper? What else happens when I have what I want, or when I become more clear on what I want, and then I go deeper into the why of that? What's that experience like for you? Okay, and then the final piece that I'm going to touch on here, and this is not an exhaustive list at all, it's just the beginning, is knowing that you're worthy of more. So these are all related to, right? You can see how these are all intertwined and they're woven together. But what I want to say here is that belonging is survival. And for some of us, going at our own rate of growth, like if we really allowed ourselves to move toward the rate of growth that we are being invited into, the inspiration, the invitation that life is giving us, the creative juice that is moving through your body, if you really let yourself move into that, you face losing relationships. That is a valid fear. Now, I want to say here, actually, what you face is having more real relationships because you're willing to have a more real relationship with yourself. And this might also mean losing relationships that are attached to you staying the same. But this can be a big block. So if you pull back from your own growth cycle, the rhythm and the invitations, you're going to feel it. And if it's left unconscious, you're going to project it onto the people around you anyways. Like either way, the relationship is going to come up for evaluation. Whether it's conscious because you are moving forward and realizing like I'm not going to belong in the same way to these relationships, but you choose to put boundaries around your experience and your desires and treat yourself with like the utmost care, and you move through it as you expand and claim yourself in a newer way, or you resist that and you internalize that all that energy that doesn't have anywhere to go, you stuff it, and then it gets projected out onto the people around you as they're not doing enough and need to do more. When in fact it's, no, my friend, you have more to do here, and you're ready to do it, and you're not allowing yourself you're not letting yourself step into it. So just let these land and notice how this is exactly how people pleasing keeps you from moving up the spiral and stepping into more. And what I want to leave this with here before we start the journey is that you get everything you want when you stop trying to have everything you don't want. Right? And so if you find that you're consistently enforcing boundaries, you might not be trying to have what you want. You might be trying to have what you don't want. And so you're out of alignment, and life keeps bringing you relationships, situations, opportunities that aren't for you. When you know what you want, and you know you get to have what you want, and you're releasing all the beliefs, all the stories, all the structures around the conditioning and the programming around what you don't want, which is the behavior of people pleasing is woven into this. You don't need your boundaries to protect you. They're more of an internalized container that protect your desires as you learn to embody them in a deeper way. So this is the end of the expressing, sharing, reminding portion of this podcast. We're going to move into the journey now. And as always, give yourself the gift of your undivided time, attention, and space here. These journeys talk to your subconscious mind, and they talk to your subconscious mind through your body. So if you are present with yourself in your body, you're going to get so much more out of this. It definitely won't land the same, and it might actually create confusion and overwhelm if you're not present with the work as the work is being offered to you. So come back to it when you have the space and time. And just press pause now. And if you're driving, if you're with the kids, if you're working, if you're tidying up around the house, just come back to this when you have time to just be and breathe and settle in. Okay, so we're going to take an inner child journey. We're going to connect with the inner child, the aspect of us that couldn't make a boundary, and reclaim this with them, and for ourselves, and for our desires. So just settle into your body here. Begin to breathe in a more intentional way, whatever that looks like for you. Just find a rhythm of breathing that feels nourishing and supportive and allows you to sink in and relax deeper and deeper here. Beautiful. Just allowing yourself to be fully present right here. Sinking in, anchoring in, noticing if you can connect with an energy of the all that is, of source, of universe, of God, just allowing this beautiful, infinite love and support that's always here with you, allowing yourself to tap into it. Let this be your anchor. There you go. Beautiful. Continue to breathe here. Settling in more and more into your body. And when you're ready, you're invited to place a hand on your heart. And as your hand lands on your heart, acknowledging that there are desires, that the intelligence of your heart, that the frequency of your heart, that the truth of your heart has for you. And that it's okay that they remain quiet or hidden until you're ready to claim them and to protect them with a boundary. Acknowledging this all right now, having so much compassion and grace for yourself and for these desires and for your heart. And just allowing the truth that in these moments, you're going to be able to reclaim a part of yourself, to reclaim your energy so that you can redirect it into your heart and your desires and your reason why. And that in just a moment, all of this can become clear. So right now, you're invited in your mind's eye to open up right here. You're going to see a scene. You're going to see an image of yourself as a child. You're going to open up right here into a space and a time and a place where your inner child is going to show up fully right here for you. There you go. You're right here with your inner child. You're in a scene, and just notice how your inner child is presenting to you here. And it's not so important to pay attention to the details of the event or the scene. Just allow yourself to land in here and continue to breathe in your body. You might be feeling energy or emotions, reconnecting here to this part of you. Just allow yourself to be here and just notice your inner child and just sending them the message that you are here and you are 100% interested and present with them. Beautiful. And inviting your inner child up toward you or moving toward them in whatever way feels safest right here. And letting them know that you are here and that you are curious to hear from them. What is it that they need and can't ask for? Receiving their answer now. Beautiful. Just being here in this awareness as the adult who's receiving this information from your inner child, and as the inner child part of you who's expressing it, maybe for the first time. Acknowledging, honoring, and being here in this experience. And validating them. Telling them that you hear that this is what they need. You hear that this isn't what they got or couldn't ask for, and also couldn't walk away from and create a boundary around. Validating them, staying present with them, and letting them know now that you're going to fulfill this need, and you're going to help them establish a healthy boundary around it as you learn with them how to integrate and embody this desire. Beautiful. Now, inviting your inner child here to show you what it looks like for them to have what they need. What does this look like? Give them full permission to show you what it is that they need that they could never get, and they also couldn't create a boundary around. Holding the space for them right here. Allowing them to express themselves in whatever way they need to express themselves right now. Continue to breathe into your own body and notice. Notice what's happening in your body as you're receiving this information. Staying present with yourself, staying present with your inner child as they're sharing this with you. Beautiful. Now ask them, why is this important for you to have this, to be able to express this? What happens for them when they're receiving this space and support here? Receiving this message now. Beautiful. Let this answer land. Feel this truth in your body right here. Notice how choosing to bring this need forward now and creating a boundary around it will serve you. Allowing this truth, allowing this need to be fully alive within you, and allowing your third eye to open up and show you how integrating your inner child and this need into your life today looks. What are you doing? How does this serve your current desires? What happens when you protect this? What doesn't happen when you protect this? Beautiful. Letting this all land right here, anchoring it into your body, taking a deep breath. Beautiful. Now coming back to the scene with your inner child, allowing your inner child to be here with you, and asking them what they need from you now. Is there anything else you need? Beautiful. And then fulfilling this need at whatever capacity you have right now, fulfilling this need for them, taking time right here. Beautiful. The invitation here is to commit on a deeper level to this aspect of you, to your inner child self, that you will stay present, that you will stay aware, and that you will stay in service to them as the one adult in their life that can actually fulfill every single desire that they have and